Panasonic are back in the USA and they're coming back with a bang with a new Z95A OLED. So let's take a closer look. Hello and welcome to another video on AVForums. I'm Phil Hinton, the site editor, and for the last 20 years I've been lucky enough to calibrate, review and test thousands of TVs. I'm also qualified and trained by the ISF THX and PVA. In this video we're looking at the latest Panasonic Z95A flagship OLED TV. And yes, it's the Z95A, even if it's heading to the USA. If you enjoy our reviews and you'd like to see more, then please like this video and why not consider subscribing to the channel. Plus, if you think that others might benefit from our in-depth reviews, then why not consider sharing this video with your friends and peers via social media, forums and so on. We really do appreciate your support. I've spent the last few weeks living with the Panasonic Z95A, and it's the type of flagship OLED TV that you would expect from the manufacturer. Plus, in a not too surprising move following the Z95A taking pride of place on the Panasonic CES stand this year, it's also now available to buy in the US after a break of 10 years from that market. It's great to see Panasonic back in the old USA, and of course, the comment sections on these videos have always been, if only Panasonic sold this TV in the US. Well, they do now. You can actually go out from today's video date of the 4th of September 2024. You can go and buy a Z95A in the US. The Z95A is the flagship model in the 2024 range, and it features a brand new Master OLED Ultimate panel with the second generation of MLA, that's micro lens array technology, that helps produce much more brightness than the traditional WRGB OLED panels. MLA uses a layer of micrometer-sized convex lenses that are fixed to the pixels, and they capture and direct light emission, which is usually lost within a traditional OLED panel, and they redirect this light outwards towards you, the viewer, therefore boosting the brightness. And another advantage is viewing angle stability. Added to this, Panasonic add their multi-layer heatsink technology, which is proprietary to them, and this again helps boost the brightness, but it also stops any unwanted retention on screen due to the heat that's generated from the increase in brightness. This year the Z95A flagship is available in just two screen sizes, and in the UK the 55-inch has an MSRP of £2,999 and the 65-inch we're reviewing here is going to retail around about £3,899. There is no 77-inch version of the Z95A model, but rather there's a Z93A which does not feature the MLA equipped panel. Instead, it has the panel which is next down in the range, but which also does have a heatsink. If you're familiar with any of the flagship Panasonic OLED TVs from the last few years, then the Z95A design will be instantly recognisable to you. The layout is the same as previous years with a built-in soundbar underneath the screen, side-firing speakers at each side of the panel which are about 3/4 of the way up the panel towards the top, and then you have the up-firing Atmos speakers which are positioned in a central position right at the top of the panel, and of course these fire sound to the ceiling which then bounces down to your listening position. The sound system is marketed as a 360-degree Soundscape Pro which is tuned by Technics, and it also has Dolby Atmos support and is part of a 7-channel 160-watt setup on the 65-inch TV. This is slightly more powerful than the 55-inch, which is around about 150 watts. Sadly, Panasonic does not offer a version of the Z95A without this sound system, so if you want their very best panel and picture quality, you're also going to get the sound system that you probably don't want or need. The remote control supplied with the TV is a traditional silver plastic Panasonic affair with direct access keys for video on demand services. There are directional keys, menu, home keys and rockers for channel and volume, as well as a selection of number keys at the bottom. My only complaint here with the remote control is that it does feel a little bit cheap and cheerful for a flagship model, which really should have at least a backlit metal-faced version of this remote. Just like in previous years, you get support for HDR10, HDR10+, HLG, Hybrid Log Gamma, Dolby Vision and Dolby Vision IQ high dynamic range formats, which makes this one of the few OLED TVs on the market out there to support all the relevant flavours, and I believe it's the only one OLED-wise in the US. Plus, you get colour accuracy thanks to the usual professional ISF modes. There's a Netflix adaptive calibrated mode, and of course my favourite is Filmmaker mode for an easy one-button press simplicity. There will also be the capability to use Auto Cal with Portrait Display's Calman software, but this functionality was not ready when we reviewed this TV back in September 2024. It will be coming very soon, as will the Freely TV Tuner, which was also not available at the time of testing. So it's Future Phil here. Just at this point of the video, I thought I'd pop in because I'm actually editing the video at the moment. And I forgot to tell you one of the little bugs that will be an issue if you are a calibrator using meters and so on to calibrate the TV. And that's the new menu system. Looks lovely. It's very nicely designed and so on, but what it does do, as you can see behind me and in the clip that I'm showing you, is that the overlay overlays over your window pattern. And even if you go in and try and make adjustments to the white balance adjustments or your color management system, that overlay does not disappear. It remains over your window. Now, good calibrators like myself would normally say to you, well, you make an adjustment, you take the menu off the screen and then you take your measurement, which is the correct way to do it because then you're not getting any pollution to your results. However, companies like Panasonic have for a long time been able to have a menu on screen and not pollute the window area where you're taking measurements, so you could keep the menu on screen. It made calibration a lot quicker and it didn't pollute your results. Unfortunately, this is unusable if you want to use the menus at the same time as taking measurements, so you can't do that. You're going to have to do the old-fashioned way, which is take a measurement and then go through the menus again to get them back on screen. I've fed this back to Panasonic. It's obviously been an oversight at some point in the design of the new menu system, and hopefully they'll get it fixed soon. So back to old Phil doing the review. We did our full testing and measurements with the Z95A, and you can deep dive into those results in the written review, which is on AVForums. But in summary here, I was surprised to find that the Z95A was not quite as accurate as I expected it to be. Now, don't get me wrong, the result for an out-of-the-box picture preset is still very good and accurate, especially when you compare it to the completely inaccurate modes like standard and dynamic. But I do expect Panasonic to be one of the most accurate on the market with this kind of thing. And as it stands this year, so far, the LG G4 has been the king of the out-of-the-box settings, which is something I wasn't expecting because Panasonic really are the kings at this. What we have here is a little bit too much red and not enough green and blue within the grayscale mix, especially at the brighter end of the scale. So you get a slight red push to white, which will also affect the colours of our primary and secondary points. Gamma is tracking BT1886 fairly well, and that's where we want to be in most living rooms. But we can see our red error, and this is reflected in the delta E errors being over the visible threshold of 3 from 80% brightness and higher. Panasonic can do much better here, and we've sent the feedback back to them on this point. Again, this is me being very picky though. As a result of this red push to the white point, it also pushes the primary and secondary colour points in our saturation chart, with saturation and hue errors visible with some content. Fixing the white point with calibration resulted in a much better grayscale and colour gamut tracking to reference points. With HDR, the Z95A measures in at 1539 nits on an industry standard 10% window and 204 nits full screen in the most accurate Filmmaker mode. This is around 91 nits brighter than the 65-inch LG G4 on a 10% window, but 17 nits less on 100% full screen. Compared to the 55-inch Samsung S95D, and there is a review coming of that very soon, the Panasonic Z95A is around 59 nits less at 10% and about 86 nits less on 100% full screen. With peak brightness, you're never going to physically see these differences due to how our eyes work, and each manufacturer also applies slightly different tone mapping techniques, so it's an interesting aside, but it's no real indicator of HDR performance. Just like our results with SDR colour to Rec 709, the wide colour gamut performance to DCI P3 is good, but we once again have a shift to red within the gamut out of the box. However, calibration also fixes this issue. We measured BT 2020 at 72% XY and 74% UV, with P3 coming in at 97% XY and 99% UV. This sample of the Z95A was very clean in terms of the panel uniformity, with just very faint vertical bands being seen in complete blackout conditions on a 5% brightness slide. There was also a very faint pink edge to the left side of the screen on our panel in the same conditions. However, watching a dark scene in a movie in a dark room did not highlight the banding or the pink issue that we saw with the test patterns only. Slides at all other various brightness levels were clean, with no signs of dirty screen effect, DSE or vignetting to the panel edges. Also, when viewing the TV from very wide angles with normal TV content, we didn't notice any obvious tinting to the panel edges. With 24 frames per second, the Panasonic Z95A displays this content correctly with excellent motion reproduction using 5.5 pull down, with IFC off and accurate IFC left switched on at default. Broadcast content at 1080i 50Hz is good with no microstutter, even with fast cuts and camera movements. Applying IFC will introduce soap opera effect within the higher settings, with over smoothing of the motion, and artifacts are also seen around fast moving objects. For those who may have issues with 24 frame per second stutter or other slight motion issues, you may find that IFC minimum helps to mitigate this without it adding in any obvious soap opera effect. There's nothing any TV video processing can do to improve the worst of the SD broadcast channels out there, but with good bitrate content, Panasonic does a decent job presenting a watchable image without any obvious artifacts getting in the way. HDR content, as you would imagine, benefits the most from the upscaling on the Z95A, with excellent sharpness, detail and fine detail looking clean and free from ringing or false edges. SDR content also benefits from the Panasonic looking incredibly cinematic with very good accuracy and sharpness. Blacks are deep and fluid with no obvious signs of black crush at all, and they're also free from any overshoot issues within the vast majority of content we tested. Colours are bright and natural with excellent accuracy following calibration, and shadow detail retrieval and mid-tone accuracy adds to superb depth to images. Skin tones are also natural and lifelike, with excellent dynamic range rounding off a very impressive SDR performance. Moving to HDR10 content also highlights the sheer dynamics and cinematic screen that the Panasonic is capable of, while remaining incredibly accurate in the process. Dynamic range is king, and the depth that is on offer is stunning as you would expect. Blacks are deep yet detailed with excellent shadow detail retrieval, and just above black detail is also sublime here on the Z95A, something that Panasonic always gets right. Colours are vibrant with superb brightness and texture on display, and I didn't notice any instances where they looked washed out or dull, and the tone mapping was also first rate on the Panasonic. Other HDR content such as HLG, HDR10 and Dolby Vision all continue to literally shine on the Z95A with the same cinematic flair and accuracy that we've come to expect from Panasonic. When compared to the competition, the Panasonic more than holds its own, and in some cases it even bests the others. Dolby Vision Dark has also improved this year, and it's not quite as dark as I remember it on the MZ2000. It should be noted that I did not do any critical viewing tests with Dolby Vision IQ or with the light sensor switched on. The TV was set up for darkroom use with movie watching and a bright room for day-to-day TV viewing, and this was done through normal calibration. There was no need for the light sensor. The MLA technology also means that the Z95A is more than capable of performing in a normal living room with bright surroundings and ambient light. It won't do anything to fade out the image or look bad in those surroundings. Gaming has been a new priority for Panasonic over the last few years, and while the company still wants to offer the very best in terms of movie watching accuracy, the same can also be said for gaming. Launched a few years ago, the latest Game Mode Extreme setup has the updated game board menu and the excellent accurate picture quality thanks to the True Game Picture mode. You also get two HDMI 2.1 48GB per second inputs, which support Dolby Vision gaming to 4K 120, with further support for 4K 144Hz PC signals, NVIDIA G-Sync and AMD FreeSync Premium VRR, ALLM, which is auto low latency mode, EARC and HDIG support. We measured input lag at 8.9 milliseconds for 4K 60 and 4.9 milliseconds for 120Hz signal. We also have another big change when it comes to the operating system used on the Z95A and other Panasonic TVs this year, with the move to Amazon's Fire TV OS. Panasonic has been keen to stress to me that this is a partnership between the companies to harness the very best from the Fire TV system and its content offerings, its ease of use and the advanced voice controls, while also retaining the excellent flexibility of the old Panasonic menu systems in a newly designed and presented fashion that still allows you to deep dive in the picture and sound setting controls as you would expect to do on a Panasonic TV. The Panasonic Z95A certainly moves the game on from last year's MZ2000 with the addition of the new Pentonic chip, making the HCX Pro AI Mark II processor a very powerful tool to enhance the image quality even further than it did last year. Added to that, you have the latest second generation MLA technology, adding just a little bit more brightness for specular details, along with Panasonic's superb cinematic accuracy. As we always say, there's no such thing as the perfect TV, and the Z95A does miss out on some features if you are a box ticker when it comes to buying your next TV, but it certainly delivers in terms of picture quality, calibrated image accuracy and cinematic flair. If you're looking for a one-box solution for sound and vision and want some of the very best images available for movie and game fans, then the Panasonic A95A needs to be on your demo list. It comes highly recommended. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do like and subscribe, and please also consider sharing this with your friends on social media and forums. If you want to find out what normal users think about the Panasonic Z95A once they get their hands on one, then you can also head over to AVForums and you can read the owner's thread. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.